we've now got a discussion about Keir Starmer attending the World Economic Forum. Now, there's lots of sort of conspiracy theories about what the World Economic Forum is about, and I wanted to cut through them to find out what the truth is. Prem Sikka's joined us. Thank you, Prem, for coming on.
Good morning, everyone.
Are you in good spirits?
I'm always in good spirits.
Oh, good to hear. Now, I'm just going to play you this clip. It's an interview with Keir Starmer. Hear what you think about this.
Let us just ask you quickly. You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained, and it's closed, and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shouting place.
I don't know if you could hear it. It wasn't very loud, but there was captions in case you didn't hear it. Keir Starmer saying he'd rather be in Davos than in Westminster. What would you prefer, Davos or Westminster?
I would prefer somewhere else altogether. I have supported this week Fuel Poverty Action in their demonstration. That's where I would be. I have visited various hospitals where NHS workers were on strike. I want to be where life is. And indeed, under Starmer, Labour has become too dictatorial, selecting the candidates they prefer, not what the local people prefer. And I guess Starmer and Reeves had no time for people at the picket line, so they jetted off to Davos, where thousands of private jets creating incredible pollution all over the planet landed to stay in overpriced hotels and taste the kind of expensive overpriced food. So Davos is certainly not for me, though having said that, in the past, I have attended European social forums and other platforms to talk about social issues. But if you really look at Davos, a lot of people talk about Davos. Let us just briefly remind people that the World Economic Forum holds its annual conference usually at Davos. This is the 52nd meeting, and this time about 50 heads of state and over 600 chief executives of global corporations attended. There were also some assorted politicians like Starmer there, and also some NGOs like Oxfam were there. So what is this World Economic Forum about? If you look on their website, they tell us that they are there to improve the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. That sounds incredibly good, doesn't it? And this year's theme was cooperation in a fragmented world. Now, that phrase is used against the background of Ukraine war, energy crisis, soaring inflation and interest rates, sluggish economies, widening income and wealth disparities. So what have they actually done about this? The answer is not a great deal. I spoke to one chief executive and I said, well, what have you actually achieved from all this? And I was given an example from 2017. Said, well, when we met there, we ended up creating the Global Battery Alliance, to standardize the format for car batteries. And my response was, well, I'm sure you capitalists have common and competing interests, and you would have probably ended up doing that anyway. So why go all the way to Davos to say that that is what we actually achieved? I didn't get a reply from that. So what Davos is really about is advancing neoliberalism and the interests of corporations. Okay, you certainly did not hear any talk in Davos, from what I've been able to gather, about saying, let us end the privatization of public services. Let us reduce financialization in the world. The star player at Davos has been JP Morgan, which is a well-known bank. So I've done some background work on JP Morgan, and I can tell you, since the year 2000, it has been in the US alone fined 112 times to the tune of $36 billion for financial misdemeanors. Yet there is no discussion in Davos about shackling the finance industry, because obviously these fines haven't really done anything. Oil and gas companies are estimated to be making this year all over the world about $200 billion of excess profits because they are exploiting their monopoly market position. Yet there was no discussion of that in Davos about how on earth to end that and how to bring these corporations to heel. Again, I've written about this thing, about the pharmaceutical companies. About a dozen companies control the world's pharmaceutical trade, and they usually charge excessive prices for their drugs. There was no discussion at Davos saying, hey, the government should really be setting up publicly owned companies to produce generic drugs and provide cheaper drugs. None of that was discussed. So from cradle to grave, our lives are shaped by corporate power. But Davos did not discuss breaking up giant corporations or democratizing them by putting workers on their company boards. That is not on the agenda. I think you're all getting the flavor that they're interested in promoting their brand of capitalism. So, you know, Davos is a million miles away from the kind of capitalism which we call Cadbury and Quaker capitalism, which built schools for their workers, provided homes there for their workers, provided hospitals for their workers. We are moving in the opposite direction. So there's plenty of lip service in the press releases and the statements by the good and the great about eradicating poverty. So what has happened to poverty? Let's just look at a couple of figures. The World Bank has said that is most recently, that countries are unlikely to meet the goal of ending extreme poverty by 2030. What is this thing called extreme poverty? Extreme poverty is $2.15 a day income. Now just think about that. Who on earth can live on $2.15? And this is what these chief executives of giant corporations who make more than that in a split second are actually saying that is what they are aimed at. So Oxfam was at Davos and it produced a report, and it said since 2020, $42 trillion of new wealth has been created, and 63%, excuse me a minute, and 63% of that's gone to the richest 1%. The remaining 99% of the population's collected basically just about $16 trillion. So what that means in practical terms is that a billionaire, this is since 2020, has roughly collected $1.7 million for every $1 of the wealth handed to the bottom 90% of the world's population. There was no discussion of that, no policies. Patriotic Millionaires, a group I got to know, and I think you came at the seminar, Crispin, they have issued an open letter last week asking governments to tax millionaires more. They're saying we want to pay more. And their demand comes just in a week when we find that Nadeem Zahawi failed to declare about £20 million of capital gains and did not pay 3.7 million tax. Yet no government or the CEOs at Davos were saying, let us declare war on tax avoidance. Let us have a global standard under which all the rich peoples and all the parliamentarians and all the giant corporations' tax returns would be publicly available. None of that is on their agenda. So Starmer and Reeves were not pushing for that agenda. What they went there to say is, well, they were saying to corporations essentially, what can we do to bring your investment to the UK? In other words, basically, can we please dilute some of our regulation? Can we give you grants? Can we give you subsidies? And this kind of a bit of begging, if you like, is going on at a time when Labour and Conservatives are telling us that we have a world-beating city of London. If it is so world-beating, where the hell is the investment? And there is no investment. You know, we are near the bottom of the investment league in the EU. So I think Starmer and Reeves would have spent their time better by attending the picket lines outside railway stations, hospitals, and schools if they wanted to make a better use of their time. At the very least, they would have heard how ordinary people are struggling to survive. They would have heard how they can improve the quality of life people at home. You know, even if you do attract foreign capital, I won't go a lot into it, it's very, very problematic. A lot of it is routed through tax havens deliberately, so they can dodge taxes here, okay? And of course, you can invite giant corporations to the UK and elsewhere. You can divert rivers, you can raise mountains, you can clear forests, you can cover local areas in tarmac, but they don't owe any loyalty to anybody. They don't have any loyalty to any community, any workforce, any product. As soon as there is a kind of a more profitable opportunity available, they're off. And so we really need to fundamentally rethink the nature of capitalism or whatever other system we want. But that is not what Davos discusses.
No. Well, look, I just wanted to play another clip from a clip from Davos itself with Keir Starmer, and I'm going to then bring on Paul Harnett from Extinction Rebellion, because what we see in this is.
Are you prepared to encourage investment in oil and gas as well as renewables?
What we've said about oil and gas is there does need to be a transition. Obviously, it will play its part during that transition, but not new investment, not new fields up in the North Sea, because we need to go towards net zero. We need to ensure that renewable energy is where we go next. There's huge potential for this in the UK in terms of wind and offshore wind. We're already developing that at speed. We need onshore wind to go with it, so that we have a combination that, as I say, brings the prices down, gets us off the international reliance on oil and gas, and with it gives us the next generation of jobs and deals with the climate crisis. And that's why we set a stretch target of 2030 for clean power generation. That's where we want to get to. So yes, a role for oil and gas as we transition, but no to new investment, because we've got to take this decision. That's going to require leadership.
So no new oil investment or gas investment in the North Sea?
Yes.
Now, Paul Harnett's joined us. Starmer's made quite a bold commitment there. No oil or gas investment. What's your response to that? Can I just introduce you? You're an economist, and you're also in Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, I've also gone into action with Just Stop Oil as well. And as most people know, the demand of Just Stop Oil is no new gas and oil licenses. And that's also a demand of Extinction Rebellion. So, yeah, well done, Keir Starmer. I never thought I'd see the day where I was really, really happy at what he said. But let's not get carried away. You know, it was great timing. It was at Davos, but, you know, I've been reading articles in the FT about Starmer's visit to Davos, and basically the British are pretty much ignored. The issues that are being discussed are Russia, international energy, and all of the rest of it. And also, there's a lot of people on this Zoom at the moment who don't trust Keir Starmer. And a lot of that mistrust has come from his leadership campaign with his pledges, etc., etc. And so therefore, my congratulations to Keir Starmer for making such a bold statement. And no doubt Ed Miliband was involved in that as well. So, you know, I'm here in Manchester. Nice one, Ed. Yeah, do we really trust them? Well, it's only a few months ago that Keir Starmer came out and said that protesters such as Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, the government should come down even heavier on them. So,
yeah,
so
that's
do we
what I was
trust?
thinking. I mean, he's pretty authoritarian about Just Stop Oil and dismissive. He didn't even seem to have any empathy at all with what the message was, did he? I find
Not
it
at all.
difficult to reconcile that kind of statement with what he was saying.
Yeah, I'd also point out that to what extent has that statement been publicised? I mean, you got that clip there. If you actually go and do a search on Keir Starmer, no new gas and oil in the North Sea, you're not going to get a massive splurge of mainstream media actually repeating that. Not even on the own Labour Party websites are they promoting that. And it is actually a big policy statement. You know, I'm a policy wonk. I like to hear statements like that. So it's not really being publicised. And I'll just put this into even more of a context. And that is that Joe Biden, if you can compare Keir Starmer to Joe Biden famously came into office saying that there would be no more gas and oil licensing in the United States. As we speak now, Joe Biden has approved more gas and oil licenses than Donald Trump ever did. So do not underestimate the power of the gas and oil lobby, particularly in the United States, but also here. We all know that the gas and oil lobby channel millions and millions and millions of dollars and pounds through Tufton Street here in London and across the world as well to ensure that there is business as usual. And the big takeaways for me from Davos was, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, the UK is open for business and that we want a clean power alliance, So they're hobnobbing with the billionaires, as Prem said. Kudos, Prem. I have agreed with everything you've said today and everything you've ever said. Thank you very much.